This is Dino Mountain Mission 8, one of the 42 optional levels available in Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, an egg-rolling 3D platformer for the Nintendo GameCube. This level is one of the 7 select levels where you get to play as Bantam Scrambled instead of the game's titular character, Billy Hatcher. Even if you were to exclude the fact that you're playing as a different character, Dino 8 is still a very memorable level for those who speedrun the game. This is a level that was once considered too slow to be routed into the game's any % category, but over the course of the game's history has become one of the fastest levels in the entire category. This level has gone through its course of drastic changes and optimizations, and today I'm going to discuss how this came to be. This is the evolution of Dino Mountain Mission 8, to the mountaintop. Before we begin, I described this level as one of the game's optional missions, but what do I mean by that? Well, in Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, there are 14 missions which every any % speedrun will include, 10 of which are missions 1 and 2 of worlds 1 to 5, as mission 2 unlocks the next world upon completion, and mission 2 can only be accessed after mission 1 is completed. 3 of which are Sand Ruins missions 1 to 3, as Sand Ruins 3 will unlock the final level, Palace 1, which is the 14th and final mission which you must complete. However, you cannot beat the game by simply completing these 14 levels. You can get all the way to Sand 3 before the game stops you, as you cannot complete this level unless you have collected 25 Emblems of Courage, which are awarded to you upon completing a level for the first time. This is where optional levels come into play. At this point of the run, you would only have 12 Emblems of Courage, so to progress past Sand 3, you would need to go to other levels and collect 13 more emblems. In the early days of Billy Hatcher speedrunning, the routing of the game came down to which optional levels are accessible, and which of these will be the fastest. And that's where the story begins. Dino 8's story starts on the Speed Demos archive thread regarding Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg speedrunning. Before anyone was speedrunning the game, the thread was created to get an idea of who was actually interested in running the game. Some people would show an interest, but whether or not they followed up on that interest is a mystery. Honestly, the early days of Billy Hatcher speedrunning are lost to time now, and I wasn't there to witness any of it. However, one runner would start making contributions to the thread, Sonikkustar. Sonikkustar would post a theoretical route for the game's any % speedrun, listing the levels that he reckoned would be ideal to complete the game as fast as possible. However, the list would fail to include Dino 8. But why is that? Honestly, it's not surprising that Dino 8 wasn't initially considered for any % when you look at the route through the level that the game wants you to take. To get an idea of how long of a level Dino 8 is, let's take an in-depth look. The level starts at the top of this slide, which you will want to traverse down. Before you do this, you will need an egg so that Bantam can move faster with dashing, jump higher with an egg bounce, and defeat enemies with attacks such as the egg shoot, or just by running the eggs into them. Grab the egg in front of you and roll down the slide, jumping over the gaps when they present themselves. Once you're at the bottom, you want to head to the right over to this switch, which opens this gate. Drop down here and you will be presented with the first major roadblock. To progress here, you will need to bounce off of these green hoops to make it to the platform in the distance. But unfortunately, doing so isn't so simple, as the first green hoop is situated over a single flame. Attempting to bounce off the hoop whilst the flame is active will knock Bantam off the hoop and potentially break his egg. To progress, you need to put out the flame. To do so, you need to hatch this blue egg, which contains our good friend Clippin. Luckily, hatching the egg is quite a simple task, as the fruit required to maximize the egg is littered around the area, hidden inside breakable objects. For those who have never experienced this game before, eggs grow by collecting fruit and once fully grown, can be hatched. When Clippin is hatched and tamed, you can throw him into the flame to extinguish it and proceed through the hoops. Annoyingly, the next roadblock in this level is right after the green hoops. We want to go through this gate, and to do so we need to defeat a few groups of enemies located in the lower part of this section to trigger the gate opening cutscene. We can use Clippin to destroy the enemies quickly in combination with some nearby fruit to allow our egg to grow and deal more damage. Once the gate is open, we can head through it and proceed to the next gate, which again needs Bantam to defeat a group of enemies. Once through it, travel up these green and blue hoops to reach the top of the mountain. Defeat a wave of dinos and then defeat a wave of armadillos to open the final gate, and dash jump across the large gap to finish the level. Understandably, the issue with Dino 8 is the amount of stopping that you need to do, whether it is hitting a switch to open a gate, growing eggs, defeating enemies, or watching cutscenes. This all adds up to make quite a slow level, and surely if something was to be found to cut out any of these roadblocks, then the level could speed up considerably. However, a couple of years later, Sonikkustar would reroute 80% to feature a new set of levels, with this route featuring Dyno 8. It would be apparent that Dyno 8 wasn't as slow as initially thought. The first viewable run of Dyno 8 can be located on this thread within a full game 80% speedrun by a runner known as Ion, which was uploaded on August of 2012. This run takes the slow looking Dyno 8 and shows off that this level could be anything but slow. So, did somebody find a skip in Dyno 8? Well, no. There wasn't a skip in Dyno 8. There were 5. It is uncertain who discovered these skips, but all we know for certain is that Ion's run is the oldest surviving footage of early Dyno 8 speedruns. So, what did Ion do? Well, let's begin from the very start of the level, at the slide. Instead of riding down the slide, Ion opts to dash jump from the right of where he obtained his egg down to the end of the slide's S-curve. This allowed Ion to get Bantam to this section of the slide in about 3 seconds, whereas taking the slide would have gotten him to the same point in around 10 seconds. This was an easy 7 seconds saved. Now naturally, the next part of the level is where Bantam needs to hit the switch to drop down to the section where he needs to hatch Clippin to extinguish the fire above the green hoops. You might have seen these fences and thought that you could possibly just jump over them to avoid hitting the switch. This would undoubtedly save time, but Ion would have to find a way to hatch Clippin quickly or skip the first green hoop completely. This section is easily the slowest portion of the level, grinding fast-paced progression down to a crawl. So what does Ion do about it? He skips the entire section. To the left of the switch, you will find 2 raised platforms. From there, you can see the next section across a lake of lava. Keep in mind that lava will instantly kill you, unlike in some other games. Would such a perilous jump be possible? Yes, it's literally free. Ion bounces up to the highest of the 2 raised platforms, lines his camera up, and dash jumps across the gap, landing in the area where he needs to kill some enemies to progress. This skip saved at least 30 seconds. Ion spent some time growing his egg before the jump, however, but why was he doing that? He was setting up to skip the next section. Ion wasn't going to kill the enemies to get past this gate, heck, he wasn't even going to go near it. But how? The next section is elevated high above, and no normal jump could even get close to making it. The next skip is a one-of-a-kind skip in the speedrun. Ion immediately heads towards the free fruit tucked in his corner to grow his egg up even further, and then he heads to the raised platform nearby. Ion performs an egg bounce and hovers above this tree. When he is hovering exactly over the tree, Ion performs an egg driver by holding A to push his egg down onto the top of the tree. This causes the tree to eject Bantam and his egg upwards and in the direction of the adjacent wall, giving him enough height to skip not only killing all the enemies, but the short blue hoop sequence and the lava pits. This saved another 25 seconds. For the ending portion of the level, it is important to remember that Gates and Billy Hatcher are just a suggestion. Ion then skips defeating the next group of enemies by egg bouncing around the gate, saving around 8 seconds. And then after riding the blue hoops to the top of the mountain, Ion skips the final gate with an egg bounce into a roll which saves around 18 seconds. Ion did make a few mistakes in this run, especially at the end of the level. He attempted to do the final gate skip with a smaller egg, but then got into some complications when exchanging his larger egg for the smaller one, which forced him to use the larger egg. He performs the gate skip well enough, but slides off the platform before initiating the final dash jump. This then got Ion into another complication, this time involving the enemies, which resulted in a broken egg. He then got a new egg and performed the last 2 gate skips again, to finish the level in 1 minute and 42 seconds. Despite the mistakes, it was obvious that Dyno 8 had the potential to be fast. If Ion could get a clean Dyno 8 run, then we could know for certain how fast the level could be. After one speedrun, the level had already shaved off close to 90 seconds, so it was a matter of time until everyone saw its potential. Ion's next visible improvement would happen over a year later in October of 2013. In the time between this run and the previous one, there are many now deleted VODs, so the exact date of when these improvements are actually implemented is currently unknown. Regardless, this run cuts out the mistakes, Ion's control of the game is improved immensely, and he even has a couple more tricks up his sleeve. To begin with, Ion is now doing the tree boost with his egg one size smaller than before. This allows him to remove the need to defeat the enemies before the lava lake jump, saving a handful of seconds. Speaking of which, let's look at the lava lake jump. Instead of egg bouncing up to the higher of the 2 platforms, Ion chooses to do the dash jump from the lower platform. This jump is much tighter and requires you to jump at the very last moment on the platform. And in a game with no coyote time, this is a very risky jump to perform. It also is quite punishing too, as there are no checkpoints between here and the start of the level, and failing it results in Bantam hitting the lava. Regardless of this though, Ion performs the jump and nails it. Ion does the tree boost with his smaller egg and then does a dash jump to skip the first gate, followed up by an egg bounce into the green ring. He then proceeds quickly to the top of the mountain where he confidently performs the final gate skip with the assistance of the slightly smaller egg, and he finishes the level in 46 seconds, saving almost a minute over his previous run. This Dyno 8 without a doubt showed off how fast the level could be, and how it was easily a contender that belonged in the any percent category. However, Dyno 8 is a level that continues to get faster. Jumping over to February of 2015, Dyno 8 changes once again in a few different ways. The earliest run of these changes that I could find was from Squid, who performed this Dyno 8 in his former world record. Squid saved a small amount of time by jumping off of the slide through the right side of the boxes as opposed to straight through the middle. This ultimately gave Squid a more direct line towards the lava lake jump. Whilst he doesn't nail it in this run, Squid also goes for a small optimization before the lava lake jump by performing a dash cancel into a standard jump to get onto the platform where he performs the jump. This saves roughly half a second as it removes the recovery frames that a dash jump usually suffers from. Squid also saves another half a second at the end of the level by egg bouncing around the final gate without the need of an air roll. But where is Squid's big egg? Did he lose it? Well, no, he didn't, because I guess I glossed over the main new strategy of this evolution of Dyno 8. Instead of doing a tree boost to get over to the green hoop, Squid performed something known as a tree bounce, and whilst he didn't do it on this tree, he did it on this tree instead. But what exactly is a tree bounce? Billy Hatcher has some strange mechanics, and one of those strange mechanics is the way that the game handles characters and eggs being inside of certain objects such as signs, trees, chick NPCs, torches, and fire shooters if you're American. The game doesn't want you to be inside the object's collision, especially when you have an egg that extends your own collision. So if you try to get inside of an object, the game will eject you out of it. Now if you try to egg bounce down with some of your egg's collision clipping into the object, nothing will happen. But if you try to go any further into the object on the bounce up, the game will throw you out with some crazy amounts of speed, which is carried into your egg bounce. This technique can allow you to travel much further in the air than the game intended. Unfortunately, tree bounces, or any bounce of this type for that matter, don't make you bounce any higher than what your standard egg bounce could already do. So how does Squid use the tree bounce to get up there? He's going to use the big egg that Ion used for the tree boost to help. There is another mechanic with these bounces that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's when you fly at this speed into the top side of another egg, then the angle that you fly changes to an upwards trajectory. And this can actually create some crazy results, but out of fear of spoiling any potential future video, I won't be showing them. Instead, let's look at how Squid does this tree bounce. He lands the lava lake jump and starts to head to the fruit that Ion used to grow the egg up 2 sizes, but instead of going forward, Squid turns around and places his egg here, using the textures on the ground to assist with the lineup. He then grabs this small white egg and bounces it near the tree before hovering over the base of the tree. He bounces down and he holds towards the tree, and when he begins to bounce back up, he holds away, and this happens. The tree bounce saves around 4 to 5 seconds. This and the small optimizations that Squid used allowed him to complete Dyno 8 in 41 seconds, a 5-second time save. If done well, a sub 40 may even be possible with these strategies. The strategies that Squid used in this run would be the norm, as no optimizations or improvements were found for quite a while. In fact, the next evolution of Dyno 8 happens 3 years later, with the discovery of an even faster way to reach the green hoop, a method that didn't even need to grow an egg. All you had to do was simply push this white egg up against a wall, dash into it, and jump. Simple, right? No. You see, every Dyno 8 evolution up to this point has been done in full game runs, whilst this evolution is happening over in the game's individual level runs scene. This trick is known as the Egg Dash Ricochet, or EDR for short, and this EDR in particular is anything but consistent, but it saves around 5 seconds. There are a few factors that make this trick inconsistent. The first is that to perform an EDR, you need rather strict timing on the dash jump. Too early and you either miss the egg completely or don't hit the sweet spot for gaining the necessary height. Too late and you won't jump at all, or you will get a very low jump with a lot of speed, something that is not useful in this scenario. The angle in which you hit the egg is important too, as getting the angle slightly incorrect can change Bantam's trajectory completely. What may seem like a correct angle could be pixels too far to one side, and the next thing you know, you'll be launched in the complete opposite direction of where you want to go. But the part that made it truly inconsistent is the nature of EDRs and the positioning of the egg. Most other EDRs are done with an egg stuck in a corner of 90 degrees or less. This is because the egg can stay still as you jump off it. But even then, with the egg stuck in the corner, the results can still vary. In this case, the egg is either up against a very wide corner where it can easily roll away, or it is up against the wall. This makes the trick much harder than it needs to be, as where you're dashing and how you want to be dash jumping will vary from attempt to attempt. But at the end of the day, a time save is a time save, so there are some IL runners who would grind for an IL with this trick. The first runner to get this trick in an IL was Exeloar, who beat the level with an impressive time of 34 seconds and 670 milliseconds in December of 2018. In this run, Exeloar got a very strong ricochet that got him into the green hoop without the need for an egg bounce. You could say that he even lost time due to how good the ricochet was, as he lost time having to descend onto the green hoop. He also implemented a new method to skip the final gate, using a dash jump instead of an egg bounce to save a little bit of time. Shadowknight would improve the IL further with a time of 33 seconds and 660 milliseconds in March of 2019. Shadow got a lower EDR than Exeloar, which just about made it to the platform. His ending was a little bit smoother too, which helped him save time over Exeloar. I would then go and lower the IL even further with a time of 32 seconds and 400 milliseconds in September of that same year. In this run, I implemented two small time saves that I came up with. The first was a technique known as an instant get-up, or an IGU for short, which is done by recovering from a rolling state following a dash jump precisely on a seam where two planes of differing angles meet. I would perform the IGU on the edge of this mound after landing the lava lake jump. This saved me a little less than half of a second. The second strat I implemented was on the final gate skip again. Instead of air rolling, egg bouncing, or dash jumping, I simply jumped. This saved another half second due to the removal of the dash jump get up animation. My end was slightly better than Shadow's too, which also helped.
We got it!
The egg dash ricochet was without a doubt the fastest technique for this segment of the level, but its lack of viability in full game runs really hurt. However, over time, some more techniques were discovered to help close the gap between the EDR and the tree boost. Strats that weren't as fast as the EDR but were a lot more consistent. Runners such as Pedro and Kosmic would start using a technique known as an Eject Bounce, or ESB for short, in place of the EDR. An egg shoot bounce allows you to jump much higher than the game intends by having you use an egg shoot with one egg, and then egg bounce with another egg the moment the other egg returns back to you, as long as you are hugging a wall. This technique is still precise, but it's mainly a matter of timing, so with a lot of practice, ESBs can be easily repeated. The ESB in this case isn't as strict as some others, so this was a much better RTA viable alternative to the EDR. Though it was intimidating for some to do an ESB, it didn't stop everyone. Kosmic went for it in his former any percent world record that he set in April of 2020. He managed to get the ESB on his first attempt, but had to air roll to the platform in order to make it, which lost him a small amount of time. Regardless, he was able to achieve a time of exactly 37 seconds with this Dyno 8. Though that same month, Pedro would discover another alternative technique. This trick involved doing a tree boost, not off this tree, nor that tree, but this tree. And also, when I say it's a tree boost, this is where Billy naming conventions get complicated. This trick is completely different from the former tree boost, but is still technically a tree boost. By egg bouncing off this mound with correct positioning, you can hold towards this tree, which should result in Bantam's bounce being boosted higher, which allows him to land on the platform with the green hoop. The positioning to get the boost was rather specific. However, there was a very handy visual cue on the mound that allowed for positioning to be made relatively easy. This peanut-shaped smudge on the ground. If you used the peanut as a reference for how you lined your egg up, then you could get this trick every time. No precise timing required, no angles, no random BS, just position your egg on the peanut, bounce and move towards the tree. This trick would soon be called Peanut Jump, and if you are able to set up the positioning quick enough, it was barely slower than the EDR. In June of 2020, during my former world record any% speedrun, I achieved a 38-second completion of the level using Peanut Jump, although my setup was very slow. With fewer bounces, I could have saved 2 or 3 seconds. The simplistic nature and speed of Peanut Jump made it a popular option when playing Dyno 8 amongst the community, especially when you consider how much easier it was in the ESB and how much faster it was than the tree bounce. Unfortunately, the only run I have to show is my former world record with a slow setup because of, well, what happened a month later. So, before I explain the events that happened in July, I need to explain a few things. Dyno 8 is home to something that some speedrunners refer to as a Holy Grail, a strategy that would break the level wide open that is just out of reach. You see, at the top of the level there is a hole. If you drop into the hole, you'll find an area where you can quickly grow and hatch a 1-up egg. This area is a cave, which I have been alluding to with a lot of establishing shots in this video. The area of interest with the cave isn't the 1-up egg, but rather the blue hoop. This blue hoop takes Bantam straight back to the top of the mountain in no time at all, and the entrance to the cave is staring us right in the face. What if we could enter the cave from the bottom of the mountain? We would be able to skip a majority of the level, and doing so would no doubt be faster, but wouldn't be a Holy Grail if it was that easy. Breaking into the cave had been an idea that was on my mind for many months, and I have no doubts that the early Billy runners such as Squid or Ion had thought of ideas to break in too. The entrance of the cave is quite deep, so jumping straight in is out of the question. There's a sign here. Could you sign bounce? Nope. There is a deceptively large lava hitbox that kills you for trying, and we have no one who can mod us a hitbox viewer either. What about KBC? Surely you can clip into the cave from this wall. Well, you can clip into the wall, but you would fall into a pit of lava between the 2 walls. The gap is too big. Okay then, but what about jumping in from the entrance? I've already said that was out of the question. But then in June of 2020, I thought to myself, was I too quick to rule it out? Maybe if the stars aligned, then maybe, just maybe, you could jump into the cave. I loaded up an emulator and managed to get myself onto the roof of the cave entrance. I navigated around the lava hitboxes and then turned on wireframe mode. I created a save state and I just started throwing Bantam into the cave. Bantam got burnt in most of the attempts, but they were close. I would egg bounce into the cave entrance and then air roll into the lava with the hopes that the egg would break on the lava, knocking Bantam off the egg upwards and towards the platform inside of the cave. A lot of attempts would have Bantam touch the lip of the platform. It seemed doable, and then I got this attempt.
Not easy. I got it! I got it!
KBC?
I got it with the roll.
But with no egg?
Yeah, but there's an egg in there.
Oh, there's an egg here.
And it takes you here.
I took the blue hoop to the top of the mountain and celebrated my successful discovery. But, was it even faster? It took me ages just to get one successful roll, so doing it again but going as fast as possible seemed like too tough of a task to handle. So instead, Kosmic decided to make a tool-assisted speedrun of the level with the strategy incorporated. It took Kosmic a while to task the air roll into the cave, as the conditions to make the strategy work are very specific. If Bantam's position on the egg before the bounce, before the air roll, and when he hits the lava is slightly off, then he will fail to land on the platform. Not only that, Kosmic's task achieved a time of 30 seconds and 310 milliseconds, which is a 2-second improvement over my 32-second EDR IL, which at the time was the current IL world record. However, it was likely that a task of the EDR strat would come out to be either even or slightly faster than the cave roll strat. But the cave roll strat would become ancient history, however, as the discovery that I made a few months prior would start to become more understood. In May of 2020, I would be messing around playing Billy Hatcher on stream, and it got to the point where I started doing random nonsense and seeing what would happen. I was in Forest 6 and I had just performed a knockback clip to escape the first room. I was outside of this room and I began to slowly walk against this wall. I don't know what was going on through my head, but I hung off the ledge, recovered rolly, and suddenly...
Yo, what? Yo, what?
I had just clipped back into the room. I had no idea at the time why this had happened, but I was able to easily replicate it in the same area. I looked around for other locations, but I had no luck finding anything else. The clip was interesting, but I assumed it was due to weird collision properties with the structure. However, a week later, I would discover another clip just like this in Blizzard 2. This time, I was able to use the clip to enter the ice castle in a completely different manner than what we were doing before, but I couldn't wrap my head around why these specific ledges and corners allowed for Billy or Roly to clip through these walls. Another month would pass and I would find yet another clip, but this time in Sand 3. This allowed me to leave the pyramid at the end of the level so that I could easily practice the easy door skip. It was at this moment that I compared this with the other two instances and I found a connection. All three clips involved a corner and an adjacent wall. This wall, however, was located to the character's left when they hang off the ledge. My theory was that your position is shifted to the left every time that you perform a ledge get up. If you walk downwards, ledge hang and get back up, then you will notice that the character is now slightly to the left of their position. One thing the game fails to do during the ledge get up is to check if there is a collision blocking them from progressing any further, meaning that Billy and Roly were able to clip into the wall because they ignored the collision of the walls to their left during their get up animation. To test this theory, I came up with a strategy in Forest 5. It was already known in this level that by performing a KBC against the wall that faces you when you load into the level, you will be able to jump straight down onto the emblem, finishing the level with a very short in-game time. The thing about this wall, however, is that there are breakable boxes that hug this wall, and boxes, despite being breakable objects, act as mini platforms. I killed the enemies, jumped onto the box, and walked off the ledge whilst hugging the adjacent wall, and just as I thought, it worked. I had clipped into the wall, and I was able to quickly complete the level. And that was the birth of a new glitch, corner clipping. This caught the attention of Pedro and GiantClam, who began to hunt for ways to use this glitch, mainly in any percent. Surprisingly, there weren't that many convenient locations to do corner clips, as there were already faster alternatives. However, Clam and Pedro would discover the most important implementation of corner clipping that same day. You see, to avoid any type of spoiler whatsoever, in the editing of this video and in the recording of all these establishing shots that I have used, I have carefully made sure to hide one important detail about this area of Dyno 8. This wall, which is very close to one of the walls of the cave, actually has boxes right next to it. Pedro and Clam used these boxes and discovered that the corner clip would allow them to both clip through this wall and also be able to stand on some solid ground whilst being out of bounds. All other methods of clipping would push Bantam too far back, forcing him into the lava. Now that there was some solid ground to stand on out of bounds, all they had to do was simply jump and they were inside of the cave. And then all they had to do then is show that this saves time. Pedro would quickly start to do aisles of the level. He would jump onto the box, align his camera and slowly walk off. If he had the setup correct, he should get up onto the box and immediately fall off and land out of bounds on the ground below. He jumps the gap, grabs an egg that is conveniently placed where you land the jump, and rides the blue hoop to the top. He does the fast final gate skip and completes the level in 29 seconds and 230 milliseconds. It was faster. Dyno 8's Holy Grail had finally been achieved, and it was all thanks to a random discovery that I assumed was useless. But it's not over yet. Do you think this really saves 3 seconds? Think again. To begin with, it was discovered that it was faster again to jump through the middle of the boxes from the slide, as it takes us on a more direct line to the boxes. I also found a consistent setup for getting the corner clip from the top of the boxes. If this nail on the box's texture is between Bantam's feet, just before he walks off the ledge, then the corner clip will work. All you have to do was line Bantam up and walk off slowly. We then discovered that pressing the A button to get up from the ledge hang resulted in a faster get up animation compared to tapping up on the analog stick, which everyone else was doing. These strategies helped save an additional couple of seconds. But then, corner clipping got even faster, easier, and more consistent thanks to a strategy found by ChristianRoyle. If you put Bantam in this corner, jump and then quickly tap the stick to the right, then Bantam will grab the ledge. If you press A to get up, he will stand on the box, out of bounds, and all you have to do was jump and hold left at the exact same time. This strat was easily replicable, and we would discover something interesting about this method of corner clipping. It didn't work on any of the other clips that were previously found, just this one here, and it was because this was the only corner clip involving Bantam. But why is Bantam the reason that this works? Well, it's because...
He's thick! Boy! That's a thick ass boy! Damn!
Yes, Bantam's wider build allows him to corner clip much easier than the other characters. This additional chunkiness pushes Bantam more to the left when he gets up from the ledge, and this allows him to perform corner clips by jumping into ledges. All other characters are too thin to actually do this. There are supposed to be no differences between each character, but Bantam's ability to do easier corner clips technically makes him the best character in the game. This strategy saved 3 seconds over previous corner clipping methods, and can allow for completions of Dyno 8 in about 25 seconds in full game runs. During the introduction, I mentioned that Dyno 8 would become one of the fastest levels in any percent. While that was also kind of a lie, as the truth is, with the corner clip, Dyno 8 has become the fastest level in any percent. Levels like Pirate 4, Blizzard 3 and Circus 5 may have faster in-game times, but in any percent, real time is more important, and these 3 levels have something that Dyno 8 doesn't. Unskippable, slow cutscenes. When timed with the cutscenes and text boxes in mind, Dyno 8 becomes the fastest level in any percent. We are almost done with the evolution of Dyno 8, but there are 2 more strategies to discuss. The first is another discovery on the day that corner clips were found, the fastest way to corner clip. This strategy, like the EDR, is very hard to replicate on command, and therefore is only used in individual level speedruns or in a task. If you're hanging off the box to do a corner clip and the box breaks, then the corner clip still works, but with the additional benefit of removing the slow get up animation. What I would discover is that you could perform an egg shoot with the egg that you rode down the slide on, quickly jump onto the box, get a perfect position and slowly walk, then hang off the ledge just before the egg comes back to break the box. This strat saved around a second, but a lot could go wrong. The slow walk was hard to get quickly, as going ever so slightly too fast would result in no ledge hang. The positioning was different, and the egg breaking the box was prone to killing Bantam by dropping him into the lava. The timing window is tight too, so you have to be quick with everything. Christian's strategy didn't work either, as this would also kill Bantam or not let him clip at all. And worst of all, you only had one shot, as once the box is gone, it's gone, and the other boxes aren't good contenders for the corner clip. They work, but they are much more precise to work. Finally, one more strategy to finish off. It was later discovered by our favourite resident dad, Datsun, that you could speed up the very first dash jump by jumping from the left side of this pillar as opposed to the right. This jump could land you past the boxes and save you another second. This strat is definitely run viable, but it is a lot riskier, so not everyone has adopted the strategy yet. And that is everything. To close out the video, I want to show you the most recent evolution of Dyno 8. But as this level has come a long way, I want to recap on everything that was found before I show you this final run. Dyno 8 was a level that was once considered too slow for any percent, but over the course of 9 years, it kept becoming faster thanks to new innovations and eventually became the fastest level in the category. It is a rare case of a Holy Grail strategy being discovered, and is a level where we climb a mountain so damn fast it puts Celeste runners to shame. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the evolution of Dyno 8 and the current IL world record set by God Gamer, MonkeySMB. Thank you so much for watching this video. I got burnt out like 3 times making this video, so I'm happy to get to this point to say that the video is finally done and you're all seeing it today. Thank you. Please make sure to like, comment and subscribe on the video so that the YouTube algorithm can send this video out to more people. Your kind words and reception really warmed my heart and it made me so motivated to make this video. I want to make a shout out to the Billy Hatchet community for their contributions towards Dyno 8, as if it wasn't for them, then we wouldn't be here today, and I'm so grateful for their contributions. Thank you so much. I also want to shout out the current Billy Hatchet community because their kind words and their support really motivated me as well. Shoutouts to Game Master PLC because he made the widescreen mod that you saw throughout this video with the establishing shots. It was such a step up over the Clip and Eat video, and despite never meeting you, never talking to you, I really appreciate your mod, Game Master PLC. If you're seeing this, thank you. And finally, yeah, I don't want this video to go on too long, so I'm going to end the video here. I've been Chiron. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.